Hey, welcome to episode 21. Got it. Episode 21 of the Cellarcast. Oh man, that peaked. That looks like it peaked. I'm gonna turn down the recording level a little bit. um, that totally threw off my train of thought. Yeah. Uh, had a fine week. I don't know. Not my life isn't particularly eventful. I didn't get extorted this week like on episode 3. Am I correct? It was episode 3 of this podcast where I talked about getting extorted, or like $2,000 or something. I forget. Pretty sure it was 3 or 4. No, it was 3. It was definitely 3. Anyway, yeah, not a ton of, honestly, like not a bunch of news that I cared about this week. Do I have any news? Really? There's like one thing that happened yesterday, but I want to get into the comment review first. Blah blah blah. Yeah, this might be a, I don't know, a shorter video. I feel like I always say, whenever I say this might be a shorter video or a shorter episode, it never ends up being that. I always spend like 45 minutes talking about like a single thing, like Star Wars or something. Anyway, yeah, let's just jump right into it. Comment review. So we've got a comment from last week from Lozy. He says, so I mentioned playing Nash in SF5, going back to Street Fighter 5, playing Nash, and he says you can check out, is it Ronaldinho? Fuck, I feel like it's pronounced like Ronaldinho, but it's spelled Ronaldinho. I took 2 years of Spanish in high school and then dropped out because I didn't like my teacher. I wasn't even going to have him junior year. I just dropped out. That was a great decision, though. Dropping Spanish. Because what it meant was that I got to have a free period, and God, I needed that free period my junior year. Fuck, that saved me. Anyway, I'm gonna assume it's Ronaldinho, something like that. Ronaldinho BRR versus Frozen on YouTube, a beautiful Nash mirror match. Yeah, so I did check that out. That is a great set. That is from, when is that from? Actually, only pretty recently, actually. Ronald, let me look it up again. Yep, I still have it in my Intel Open World 2021. So this is from it was a set from August. That was Ronaldinho, who's from Brazil, and then Frozen from Argentina. Is that the Argentinian flag? That's the Argentinian flag, right? Please tell me that's the Argentinian flag. Yes! Got it. Okay. Whew. I'm gonna turn down it a little bit. I feel like I'm peaking a lot. Yeah, no, that's a great. Oh, that was a great match, actually. Nash is a character who's definitely like very season 1 of the game, and that he's a little, you know, he's a little basic. But I really enjoy using his tools. I like characters who have like good neutral buttons. I love just spamming Crouching Fierce with him and just basking in all of my plus frames. Is Crouching Fierce plus? I actually have his page up right now. Crouching Fierce is yeah, it's +3 on block. It's really good. Yeah, so these two guys, it's funny because my background in esports, the first time that I got into like, competitive gaming was with like League. And the thing about most other esports is that like unfortunately most of the time the Latin American players, that region tends to not be very strong. Brazil was always kind of the meme in League. That's a classic League meme, the Brazilian Mordekaiser players. For some reason, back when Mordekaiser was like the original one that I loved, that also sucked, when it was still that version of him. This is, a while ago, like pre-2016, maybe even pre-2015. There was a whole meme that just for some reason Brazilian players loved Mordekaiser, and they would go whah, 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 whah. That unfortunately that meme has died after the 2 subsequent reworks that he's had, but that totally changed him. Man, I remember that. Because when I used to play Mordekaiser, that was a character who he was so weird because he had this weird mechanic where he would like build up a shield as he used his abilities, but it was always really, the shield wasn't like, it was a health shield, but it didn't show on his health bar. It showed on his like secondary bar. He used health as a resource, and every time he dealt damage to himself, he built up a shield. That was his passive, and that was like his second bar instead of a mana bar. It wasn't even really a resource. I don't know why they chose to display it there. But it was always super weird because you'd be hitting him and like his health it was just staying still because of the shield mechanic, because he was just spamming abilities and healing back and doing damage to himself. So his health was just always in this weird state of like, it's not moving, but he's spending and gaining it back. And then you would like win a trade by like the slightest margin, because again, he wasn't very good. You'd win a duel, and then you just type that was great. Anyway, one of the neat things about fighting games is that because they're so multicultural and they're so like worldwide, they're so global, is that, you know, I was watching this mirror match, and these dudes are good. Like, they're really good. They both play really sick neutral. They have a great punish game. Really good hit confirms from both of them. And a lot of, like, really neat combos that I mainly use, like, one specific combo that I know on Nash, and they were using a couple that I hadn't seen before or wasn't really familiar with. It's funny because they actually used literally the exact opposite V-trigger, V-system setup that I do. They use they both used V-skill 1, V-trigger 2. I use V-skill 2, V-trigger 1. Yeah, I don't know if it's like because of the matchup. I didn't go and watch any of their other games. I just kind of watched this one set. But really good. Like, the air throws were super hype. It was a fun set. Yeah, I'm I got it playing in the background right now. And yeah, that was really fun. Definitely took some notes on like certain moves, certain things that, like, sometimes you just watch a player and you're like, oh, he uses that move a lot, like back medium kick. I was like, oh, I should probably be using that back medium kick and like forward heavy kick. I'm like, oh, those are pretty good harass moves. I should probably be using those more. Yeah, so thank you for the suggestion. Always cool to see, just like, even the announcers at the start were like, these South American Nash players, what? These guys are crazy. That's always great. Or, you know, like in Tekken, when everyone found out that the Pakistani guys were super strong, and they just happened to never travel internationally because of it's hard to travel in and out of Pakistan. And then they travel to like one, you know, Arslan Nash travels to one tournament and he like sweeps it, and it's like, what? What are they feeding these guys in Pakistan? What food do they have at those arcades? Anyway, I don't know if this comes in, it continues. I don't know if this comes in as a question. Could you turn up the volume? I almost have the headphones to the maximum and it keeps on hearing low. They're very common and old, no sound cancellation and stuff. Besides that, here the heat has already started, and now with the fan I hear you even less. Yeah, I mean, last episode I was very sleepy, so I was kind of mumbling a lot. The reason I was paying attention to like my peaking this at the start here was just because I was before I started I turned up the volume the recording level. There we go. Recording level on Audacity, so that it would just pick stuff up louder. But I don't want to. It's a balance. Sorry for any peaking. I usually have it. I usually just set it and forget it. But I turned it up a little bit just because I feel like I'm prone to rambling and mumbling. And I also didn't know how sleepy I was going to get during the course of this. Because yesterday, that's our one comment. Yeah, that's our one comment. So yesterday was Red Bull Kumite. I have some fighting game stuff I want to talk about. And I figured that, because there isn't really any news that I care about, but I'm going to put it all in one block. Not really a block, but I'm just going to run through them all in order. So check the timestamps and all that if you care about whatever I'm going to talk about at the end. Yeah, so Red Bull, Red Bull in the last few years, I mean, actually for a while, I want to say. I don't know exactly when they got into esports or holding gaming events, but they've been putting on some really good events for fighting games. I know that they do stuff for, pretty sure, CSGO. Red Bull esports. There's the burp. What the heck? Yeah. What is Flick? I don't know what Red Bull Flick is. They got a bunch of stuff. Esports events? MEO. Yeah, I don't know what any of these what would you call it? I don't know what any of these acronyms or tournaments are for, but yeah, they've got a lot of stuff going on, actually in lots of different countries. And for the last few years, they've been doing this thing called Kumite, which has traditionally not been held in... It's a fighting game invitational tournament, started in 2015, and it's always been outside of the US. I think last year it was in Tokyo? Has it usually been in Tokyo, I feel? Yeah, so this is the first year that it was held in America, North America, in the U.S., in Las Vegas at Caesar's Palace. And it's not all... I think the whole thing is an invitational. So yesterday was the Guilty Gear and Tekken 7 tournaments. And I only watched the Guilty Gear one because I fell asleep at 7 p.m. And that was a great tournament. So first of all, the thing that I was tuning in for specifically was they announced, hey, the day before they were like, hey, the new DLC character is going to get announced at Red Bull Kumite tomorrow. So I was like, sweet, I'll tune in, I'll watch a tournament, and then I'll find out the new character. We'll get the trailer. It's all hype. So Kumite starts, and literally from the jump, this tournament was sick. The first match was Apology Man versus... Who was he playing? Was it Bonbabon? Watch replay. Okay, it's just not loading. I forget who the first dude he fought was. It's there's an 8-hour VOD. Yeah, but so... Oh, what was it? Was it a Soul player? Why do I feel like it was a Soul player? Yeah, so literally the first match was absolutely crazy. You had an amazing casters, because Sajam and Tasty Steve were there. If you don't know, two of the most popular commentating duo in the FGC is Sajam and Tasty Steve. There's lots of popular commentators, but as a duo, they're the dream team, and they're two of the highest paid guys too. So basically, Sajam he's a very I guess you'd once you're experienced enough in commentary, you can kind of do both analysis and color commentary, but people generally lean towards one or the other. Sajam is definitely more of the analysis, and Steve is definitely the color. I'm not saying that because he's black. I just realized that. The color commentator. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, no, but they're great because they can do each other's jobs, but they're super strong in their like respective fields of commentating. So Sajam is always really good at just pointing out quick little things like that move really hard to punish, or he's going to try to get in with this. Just quick things to let the audience kind of understand what's going on, especially in a pretty fast game like Strive. And Steve is just fun. He makes everything fun. He gets the crowd. Steve is always hyped. He seems like someone who is just genuinely really passionate and excited to be doing what he's doing, and he just shows up to every event with like he's literally just jumping around, having a good time, and having fun. And so they were on commentary, not the whole time. They switched out to some other two other guys, I think, or one other guy. Can't quite remember. To just get a quick break because it was like a 4 or 5 hour tournament, and the whole event itself was hosted by L.I. Joe, Long Island Joe. Mainly, he's mainly like a Street Fighter player, but he plays multiple games. He's been playing Guilty Gear recently. He's really fun. He is just like a New York guy, or not really. He's an East Coast guy. I'm not sure. He's East Coast. I don't know specifically New York, but he's fun. It was just really good cast. I don't know if that's the right word, but a really good staff, really good commentary for the event. And then in terms of players, the way that it worked was there were 8 players invited, and it was a round-robin tournament. And I'm not very experienced with watching round-robin tournaments, but after watching it, I actually really like the format for this kind of like an invitational where all the players are really high level, because you end up seeing not only a lot of good players, but you get to see them play multiple times and versus multiple other people, other really good players. Where, regularly in like a single elimination tournament, they just kind of go through and, there can be 2 people. Think about how many like top, like really good players there are in a major tournament. And then think about how many of them actually get the chance to play each other. Yeah, there's going to be a good number of a decent number of matches between them in the bracket once you get to like the top 16, top 8. But the thing about round robin is you get to see everyone play everyone within their respective pool, at least. And then basically whoever's the top of the leaderboard, or whoever's the bottom of the leaderboard, gets knocked out, basically. So there were 2 pools, A and B. Everyone plays everyone to a first to 2, and then the bottom 2, the people with the 2 lowest number of wins get booted out, and then they kind of continue with that elimination system until you get the top 4, top 2, and then do your grand finals. That was super fun because you can kind of see certain players have different. They kind of like warm up. Like some are really good like immediately. Like Apology Man was just on his game from the beginning. And then other players like, who was it? I think it was Uriel. Who played? There was like one dude kind of early on who was kind of like seemed like he was warming up. I think it was Uriel or Skills. And early game was a little shaky, and then the next set he played, he was really on top. And it was interesting because, you know, in that setting, if you lose like your first 2 games in elimination, or not elimination, yeah, double elimination, is that the term? Yeah, double elimination. In a double elimination tournament, you lose like 2 games and you're just out. But in this format, you still have a chance. You can still hang in there and work up and come back later. You can kind of like grow in energy throughout the day. That stuff is really fun to see. What else? Oh yeah, it was really cool. There was a decent amount of character variety. There were 2 Soul players and 2 Ino players, and both of them one of each got knocked out in like after the first round, basically. After the first elimination. It's like, okay, great. So now we're all going to see no more mirror matches. Mirror matches aren't the most fun thing to watch in the world. But you got to see a nice amount of character variety, and I think it owes to how well Strive is balanced, because like Apology Man, if you weren't aware, he's a Faust main, and Faust is generally considered the weakest character in the game. He's probably a little better now that he's been buffed, but he was going up against Soul players. Soul has been the best character in the game since launch by like a wide margin. Like, Soul is far and away the best character in the game, and he hasn't received that many nerfs. They've just kind of been buffing, strategically trying to buff up the other characters around him. And Apology Man, partially it could be the matchup experience, because he plays a character that's kind of underrepresented, and Soul is highly represented in the game, so he just has way more experience. He's fought against more Souls than the Soul players have fought against Fausts, if that makes sense. So he was just totally on lock with his with all of the matchups, really. I've always liked Apology Man. I thought he's like he has a cool style. Faust is a fun character to watch, even if I don't like playing against him. Who else was great? I really liked, the most interesting, the dudes that I liked was one Apology Man, because he really killed it, even if he unfortunately, didn't, he got to semifinals, so he did really well. Other dude, Uriel something. Can't remember. Uriel Legion. There it is. Uriel Legion, a Naga Ryuki player, and his first match was versus Diaphone, who's an Ino player. And let's see, yeah. And you could tell even that the Diaphone. Yeah, no, wait, he won the first. Yeah, okay. So I'm just reminding myself of looking at the results from like the first couple matches. You could tell that Uriel played Daru. Daru is, so there's 2 Inos. There's too many. The mirror matches really, or the doubles on character representation are really messing me up. So there's a guy named Uriel Legion, a Naga Ryuki player, and he played Daru, aka Daru Ino. His name is literally Daru Ino. Can you guess which character he plays? It's serious when someone names themselves after a character or after a character's move. I remember entering a tournament for Plus R, and my first match was against this guy. He was an ABBA player, and ABBA has this move called Danzai that's pretty important to her kit. And the guy's name on he had like a different entry name, but his name on in game was Danzai O'Clock. I was like, uh-oh, I'm in trouble. So Daru, he's been an Eno player since forever. He's been playing Guilty Gear for a long time, and so he's very experienced on this character, the play style. Eno's a hard, if you play a good Eno, it's almost dizzying, because her whole deal is just mad mix-ups and rush down. And is she in the air? Is she on the ground? She can go from one to the other like instantly. She can fake you out. Is she going high-low? And she has a ton of safe pressure tools. Now, by comparison, he's playing Nago, who is a very strong character. It was more like, I was not familiar with Uriel. I haven't kept super up with all the top Strive players. I wasn't super familiar with Uriel, so maybe he's a bigger deal. He's from Spain. Maybe that's why I hadn't heard of him as much. But I could tell, like, immediately, like literally within the first like 10-15 seconds of their match, that he had studied this matchup. Like, Daru got a lot of hits in, and that's just because he's like really good. But every time Uriel blocked like a significant move from Eno, he was always ready with the punish. Every single time Daru missed, like whiffed an attack, Uriel was ready with the punish. And even stuff that's like, it was not even like, it was not like flailing at all. It was not, was my jab fast enough to punish? No, it was like, she whiffed a move, and then he did this, he would do like the spin move. He would do Nago's like spin forward special. And it's like, oh, she's in counter hit state, and he just gets a full combo off of that. Like, you could tell he had labbed and practiced, and he took his notes. That was super cool to see. Speaking of taking notes, who is it? Is it Gobo? Who takes the notes? I'm trying to remember which. No, it's definitely not Bonbabon. Bonbabon's too monkey to take notes. I'm pretty sure it was Gobo. Gobo, who ended up winning the tournament. I was not familiar with him before this, and I think I love him. I think I love him now. So Gobo he mainly played Zato, which means that I'm terrified of this man, and he's probably a serial killer. So if you aren't familiar, Zato or Zato 1 is generally considered the most technical character in any Guilty Gear game, because his whole deal is that he is a puppet character. So Zato's this dude. He's voiced in Japanese by the same guy who does Dio in JoJo's, and in English he's Jotaro's voice actor as well. Which makes it kind of funny that he's a puppet character, because it's like a stand. It basically means that he controls this shadow called Eddie, and he can send Eddie out, and Eddie has attacks that correspond to the 4 main attack buttons, except Eddie's attacks come out when you release the buttons. So Zato, if you hit punch, Zato does his punch immediately. But if you hit the button and then you hold it down, Zato does the punch, and then once you release, Eddie will do his punch move. It's this little forward moving, he slashes a few times. Which means that's a thing called negative edge, which means that it's something that occurs on release. So Zato has these crazy complicated combos where you have to like send out the shadow, get your hit, do like two or three moves, hold down a few like specific buttons, and then with the right timing release those buttons so that after Zato's combo is over, Eddie then basically continues the combo. And then once Eddie's done, Zato runs in and then continues his part of the combo. And of course this is used for ridiculous block strings. I mean, it's... I have more experience fighting Zato in Plus R, which is an even crazier game, where he has even more moves. Eddie literally has... Plus R is so crazy that Eddie has 2 separate movesets, depending on, like... I think at one point in XX he was reworked, so they changed all his moves, and then in Plus R, because everyone in Plus R got all their moves back, they made it so that like you have the command to send Eddie out, and you can do it. It's like quarter circle forward. We'll do like the new moves. He'll go out with the new moves, and quarter circle backward. You'll send out a version of him that uses the old moves, and it can get absolutely ridiculous with how intense and crazy the block strings are, because he puts Eddie on the other side of you, and you're literally just you're blocking on both sides, trying to watch for like lows and overheads. And Gobo had amazing mix-ups. He had a really good eye for, or a really good sense for when he should do simple things. Sometimes the best mix-up is just doing the easiest possible thing, or the most obvious thing. So he would do like these empty. He would do like it's called usually referred to as an empty jump low, which is just he jumps towards you and you're expecting him to do an attack from the air, so you block high, and then he just ends up landing and then does a low attack, and hits you while you're blocking high. So he can, he would just do these, he would make these setups, like where he would get the other guy in the corner, and then have Eddie barraging him with this like attack that lasts like forever. Like he has this one where he sends out these drills. Eddie does these little like claps, and then like this row of drills pops up in front of him. And then Gobo would jump forward while they were blocking high, and then just land, crouch, do like a quick low, get mixed. It was really fun to watch. Also because Zato is just beautifully animated. If you aren't familiar, literally just watch any footage of Zato, and even if you don't care about the game, you don't care about fighting games, you don't care about Guilty Gear, just watch how amazing that character's animations are. Like the shadows and all the shapes that it forms, and just like it's so complex. There's so many frames. He is just gorgeously animated. Because he does like little flourishes when he commands Eddie too. He'll do like a little clap. He'll do like a snap. He'll like wave with his hand up when Eddie does like the big leaping move. Yeah, that was really fun to watch. I was like, Gobo might just win the tournament, because Zato players are, first of all, Zato's pretty good in this version of the game. Generally the game is pretty balanced, as was seen with the Faust play in this tournament. Generally the game's pretty balanced, which means Zato's pretty good. You just don't see him that much because he's so technical and weird, and his execution is so odd. But when there's a good Zato player, it's like, oh boy, you're not ready. Because they don't stop. They don't give up. They don't give in. They do some disgusting stuff. Disgusting combos. Ridiculous block strings. He had this really cool mix-up where Zato has this move, it's called Break the Law, where he sinks into the ground in like his own shadow, And then you can still command Eddie if Eddie's out. Eddie's limited by, like, he has a timer. So he would break the law and then go underneath his opponent, then behind them, and then have Eddie do this move. It's like the slash move, or it's done with slash. Eddie becomes this big frog and does this dolphin dive overhead, and have them block that. And because there's just so much visual noise going on during the attack, he would then pop up behind them and then just hit them with the low and just two sides, just double team them. That was a fun, like, mix-up that he'd do. So he ends up ripping through the bracket, does super well, really fun to see him play. And then he gets to finals, and he's facing off against Diaphone, who is an Eno player. Daru, his name is Daru Eno. He was knocked out, actually. Really close. Like, he put up a really good performance, but he did get knocked out after a couple games. And it ended up being the other Eno player, Diaphone, versus Gobo. Or Gobu? Gobo? Gobou. And so, before the match started, they were doing a button check, right? Which is just, hey, make sure that when you reconnect, like, your fight stick or something, the buttons didn't reset or there was anything like that. It's usually just kind of a warm-up thing. Like, both players go into game and they're just using it to practice to make sure their buttons are working properly. It's pretty standard. Because you don't want to suddenly jump in and, like, oh, wait, what? It reset to default for some weird, like, reason because of the way that the game works or the console or something like that. So the way that the ring was set up, the stage was set up, it was basically like a big MMA, like, octagon with a cage. There was some rage in the cage. And the players were in the middle, and the commentators were just standing on the side. So the players were wearing noise-canceling headphones, and the commentators were on the side, giving their commentary, which is really funny to think about. And like, you're getting your ass kicked, and you can, like, see you can see them grimacing or something. I don't know. It just seems funny, the placement. But so they're on the side, and Gobo, for his button check, he's been playing Zato the whole tournament. He picks Gold Lewis. If you don't know about Gold Lewis is a really cool character. He's a big dude. He's the Japanese stereotype of an American from Texas. That's what he is. He's a big dude, with, like, a belt buckle with a cow skull on it, and he's like just a big ass cowboy, just an absolute unit. I love Gold Lewis, and his weapon, he carries a gigantic coffin on a chain that has an alien inside of it from Area 51, and the alien is like this. You open the coffin up, and there's this weird, like, space void portal, and the alien is just these, like, weird, long, skinny, clear arms that just, like, wriggle out. It's never fully seen. You just see the arms. He uses it in a couple attacks. And what's really cool about Gold Lewis is that he has this one move that's called Behemoth Typhoon. And Behemoth Typhoon is not actually a single move. It's actually 8 moves in one, because it's done with a half circle motion, but it could be a half circle in any direction. So forward or backward, and then up, down, left, right. How do you wanna do it? So you can go, like, top to bottom on the front side, and he'll do, like, an overhead swing. You could do, like, backward to forward underneath, and he'll do this big, underhand swing. And you could do the same thing but flip, so you're going backward to forward overhead, and he'll do this big overhead swing. And all of them have kind of different properties and stuff. Such a cool character. I can't play him because I'm a keyboard player, and that shit is nightmarish to do if you're not using a pad or stick. But he is a super cool character to watch. He does huge damage. He has great pressure because all of his coffin swings, all his behemoth typhoons, they all cause like stagger on hit. Or block or guard break is correct. Stagger is a different thing in Guilty Gear. But like guard break, you get blocked, you get hit by the move, and then you whoa during it, so you're technically not blocking. He does huge chip damage. He's just really sick to watch. And Gobo is for the button check. He's playing Gold Lewis. And so one of the hardest things to do on Gold Lewis is to do an up to down Behemoth Typhoon, because on the ground. So you can do all of them in the air, but if you do them on the ground, there's no significant. Sometimes there is like an advantage. There's like doing it on the ground is preferable because certain combos are only possible because you don't have to like wait to land, or you don't have to jump the whole way. You don't want to be always jumping, because the problem is when you do an up to down Behemoth Typhoon, the first input is up, and you can't. It's really hard to actually input the motion fast enough that you actually get the move to come out before your character actually jumps. Like, you have a little bit of pre-jump frames before, like, after you do the up input, but before you are in the air. Kind of like, I think in like Smash Brothers, they call that like jump squat, when you like, your character does a short little, they like bend their legs before they jump up. So it's really hard to do. It's called an 862 would be top to bottom on the forward side Behemoth Typhoon, especially if you're running. And so Sajam, he's watching Gobo do his button check, and Sajam has played quite a bit of Gold Lewis. He really enjoyed the character when he came out, and he's watching Gobo do. No, he's like, I don't know if he did it before, or he was like, yeah, so the crazy thing about Gobo is that he can just do a running 864 Behemoth Typhoon, 862 Behemoth Typhoon, which is like ridiculously difficult, because you got to go from forward, up, forward, down, without jumping. And then Gobu like hears him. He doesn't have the headphones on yet because they're not playing. And then he just does it. And Sajam's like laughing. He's like, he just did it, look. And then he just keeps doing it. Like, first try, just keeps doing it. He's not missing a single one because he's just an execution monster. And Gold Lewis is definitely a character he's put some time into. Just Zato's definitely his main. So they actually ready up for the game. They're on character select. And Gobu is hovering Gold Lewis. He's been playing Zato the entire tournament, and he's been taking names. He's been stomping fools with his Zato. And now he's hovering Gold Lewis, which is a character who doesn't see a ton of tournament play. Not incredibly highly represented, again, because he is kind of technical. Just with, like, a lot of people just hate doing half circle motions. And he's hovering Gold Lewis. And he has this kind of smile on his face. And he's like, yeah. And he locks in Gold Lewis. So he plays Diaphone. And the first match, he fucking annihilates him. I think he perfects him the first round. He literally just like, boom, 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 boom. Just blows him up, crushes him with this Gold Lewis no one's seen before. Sorry for peeking the mic. But that's what it was like. And he just demolishes him the first game. And then it comes back. It was like the grand finals was a 1-5. And in between, like before set game 2, it cuts to Gobu's face, and he has this absolutely devilish grin on his face. Just, this man is pure evil. He's a pure villain. It was so good to see. It made me love him, because I'm a Slayer player, right? And one of the best things about playing Slayer is that there's this phrase. It's, you may have left with the trophy, but I left with your dignity. Because Slayer has some moves that are just like, boom! Just smack you with the big damage. The stupidly big hit. And it's so amazing. It's like, you get that one pile bunker, you get a counter hit pile bunker, and it's like, yeah, I'm sleeping well tonight. I'm gonna go out for some good food to reward myself after this one. Just so much. That's part of what I just love. Honestly, landing pile bunkers on Slayer is the reason that I started playing him, because I was like, this character's fucking awesome. Look at that fucking big ass hit I just did. It's like it's like crack. It's like a dopamine hit. It's the reason you play the character. And just knowing there's something, like doing a big combo is like cool. Like that's cool, especially if it's a difficult one. But there's something about just getting smacked with like a single gigantic big damage hit that is so satisfying, that makes your opponent feel so bad, because it's almost like it reflects more poorly on them than it reflects well on your skill. It's like, you should never, if you're playing well and you're aware of it and you're keeping it in mind, you should probably never get hit by a pile bunker from Slayer. Because it's just this, first of all, he has to do a Dante step, so he has to, pardon me. So he has to do it as like a follow-up to another move. He has a move called Dandy Step, which is this like evasive shuffle, where he shuffles back and then forwards. And it's very telegraphable. He has like 4 different follow-ups. One of them is Pile Bunker. Pile Bunker is super negative on block. It's like -13. Like literally anything in the world can punish it. So it's very risky to throw out, because if it misses, if it gets blocked, you're just gonna eat huge damage. You land a pile bunker when your opponent isn't remembering that pile bunker is a thing that you can do. You do a Dandy Step, and they know there's only 4 things that you can do, and they forget about pile bunker. And even worse, they hit like a button, like they're panicking, and they mash, and you get a count. If you get to counter hit, it's even worse. And so there's this overwhelming feeling of, I shouldn't have gotten hit by that. And as the Slayer, it's the best thing in the world, because you're like, you got hit. I hit you with that. Yeah, I'm a dirty lowlife cretin who plays Slayer. I like doing 3-hit combos and taking 40% of your health. and even I was able to smack you. It's the best feeling. I can't overstate how awesome of a character archetype that is. Just that big hit. And when you cut to Gobu's face and he just has this evil grin, you're like, this man is he's with me. He's one of my kind. I wonder, Guilty Gear Gobu. Because I honestly don't follow. Yeah, so he's a Zato player. Oh, well, that's still in Strive. How long has he been playing? I wonder how long he's been playing. Because I'd be curious to see who he played in previous games. Probably still Probably still. Oh yeah, you can literally look up Guilty Gear Gobu evil look or grin. um, like he knows. Probably still. Generally, Zanto players tend to be pretty dedicated to their character. Gobu. Guilty Gear. Wait, an Exerd? I can't. Looking for Exerd. Can't quite find anything. Is he on Event Hubs? I feel like if you go to tournament results, where no, SRK had like, was it? Yeah, I remember a while ago, like when I was grinding in Skullgirls, I wanted to see. One piece of advice I got was that you should like go check out characters or high level players who play your characters. So I played in Skullgirls, I played Valentine and Double. So I looked up, people who play at least those two characters, and I found a guy. Ductator, that was his name, Ductator or Ducator, Ductator, who played. His team was Valentine, Double, and Philia, I think. So not exactly my team, but same two characters. So there was a whole page on the SRK wiki and about that had there was a whole database on SRK, so of like tons and tons of players, and then they had like a big kerfuffle where some weird stuff happened to SRK, and then it was just gone. And it's like the brand is like kind of being revived now. SRK. I don't want to look up Shah Rukh Khan. The actor? Is he an actor? Indian actor, film producer, and television personality. Okay. No. SRK wiki is still mostly like, right now it's mostly for like info for a lot of games, which is good. Oh, in October it was now called the Super Combo. Oh, what the hell? I totally missed this. As of October 31st, so in the last 2 weeks ago, it's now called Super Combo. Okay. I totally missed that. That's weird. I don't know. I can't find it right now. It's unfortunately. Oh, maybe Liquipedia. Let's go on a little adventure, guys. Maybe a Liquipedia. I don't want to look up Dota 2. Yeah, fighting games. Gobo. Ah, great. Yeah, there he is. Only competed in Strive. Really? Okay, so he only started competing in Strive. That's really impressive. That's the cool thing about when a new game comes out, because they're just people who pop up and it's like they're just amazing at this one game and they haven't played before. They just got into the series with this, or they only started competing with this one. That's really cool. Blah blah blah. What else? Oh, Sonic Fox got freaking washed. They got, pardon me. They got washed. They went 0-6. That was brutal. They looked really bad. I don't know if it was didn't warm up or didn't have enough practice or something, but who'd they play? It started with Leo and then switched to Jacko, and it just never looked good. It was crazy. You're like, damn, this person won. There was definitely a lot of comments in the Twitch chat on about them being washed up. That was really brutal. But yeah, I think first round, the first elimination, they got knocked out. That was pretty rough. Yeah, Sonic Fox 0-3 after the first couple games. That was bad. That was surprising. It was like, woo, what happened here? I'm sure there was some hubbub on Twitter about it. Let's see. And then right before Grand Finals, they say, hey, we're cutting to watch the screen. We're cutting to a trailer. We're like, oh shit, here comes the reveal. And it was Happy Chaos. I was really surprised about that. So, ArcSys did the same thing that SNK has been doing with KOF 15, where they put out like a little silhouette of the new character the day before the announcement. And SNK has been pretty bad about it because they the silhouettes are always generally really easy to make out. It looks like they actually, like, if you look at the silhouette that ArcSys put out before the announcement, and then you look at the actual character render, there was definitely some editing because Happy Chaos has some very distinctive, like, just features. Like, he really messy hair. He has the halo. He's got it's the main two things, and you can tell that they definitely like smoothed out his hair. Like they cut it down. They shaved it down for the silhouette. They took out the halo. It was super like, who is it? And then it turns out, because it looked like it was someone who was maybe wearing like a cape, or there was something kind of flowy. And it turns out that they're using his design from the story mode where he's got the jacket on, which is great because he looks sick in that design. So if you don't know who Happy Chaos is, he is the main villain from Strive. He was foreshadowed in Xrd, but never, he might have been mentioned offhandedly as just, hey, there's another Valentine. There was another Valentine. I feel like Elfelt said that there was a... Elfelt or Jacko at some point says, oh yeah, there was also like another Valentine called Happy Chaos. We've never seen him. And then that was really weird because it's either like they dropped that idea or just they retconned it or something, or it was an intentional mislead because Happy Chaos is not a Valentine. So it was like, did Asuka lie? If you don't know anything about Guilty Gear lore, I'm sure what I'm talking about makes no sense. All you have to know is that Happy Chaos is the main villain from Strive. He was introduced in Strive, really, like, first time he showed up, first time his design was seen, you actually, like, had an idea of what his deal was. And for a character who became... Usually I feel like in the 11th hour, like the last entry, when you suddenly bring in a character who's like the most important dude, who's like the super big villain, and you've never seen them before, usually it goes over pretty poorly, just because there's been like no build up. Happy Chaos is really, I really liked him. Generally, I feel like most people enjoyed his character a lot, because there is a reveal. And you find out that he was actually a character who was mentioned basically from like the start, but was just never seen. There's some reveals about like who he actually was, and some stuff he did like way in the past. It was always just kind of assumed that he was just gone or disappeared. And you find out, oh no, this thing happened to him, and now he's back. And oh boy. He's really fun because his whole thing is that he was basically trapped in a white void for like 1,000 years. And he did it initially, he was like a pretty like cool, noble, wise person, like kind of sage-like. And he had to do some stuff to protect the world and ended up in the process locking himself in this void, which was, at the time he did that as he made that sacrifice stoically and nobly, and then after a little while he kind of was like, this is maybe, I don't know how great that idea was. I have an idea that was. So he's essentially, his whole motivation is that he's just bored, and now that he's out of the room, he wants interesting things to happen. He wants to see. I got super scared. My microphone. Sorry for tapping right there. I got super scared because my microphone was not, like, Audacity wasn't set to have that as the recording device. So I've been, like, vaguely paranoid this entire time that it's been recording through, like, my webcam mic, which is not good. Anyway. Now I can think clearly. His whole deal is just that he has no interest in good or evil or any really grand ideas or ideals. His only goal is just to seek novel experiences. He wants something interesting to happen. And so the events of Strive are basically, he sets up this whole thing where basically all of the main characters end up crossing paths because he wants to bring the most interesting people in the world together and then put them in an incredibly stressful situation where the world might end. And what's great about him is that he just forces problems to happen because it's interesting. Like, his openings, like, one of the first things that you really see him do, like when he's got his plan going, one of the first things that like really made me like him is he busts into the White House, and then during basically like a UN summit, and then like hacks part of like the football, which is the term for, like, it's basically he hacks the nuke launch codes and then sets off all the nuclear missiles and has them all heading towards different countries. And he's like, isn't that crazy, guys? And everyone's freaking out. What the fuck? And then he goes like, all right, why don't you you can detonate them midair right now. And so obviously everyone detonates them. He's like, if you don't, I'm going to, like, shoot that guy over there. So everyone detonates them. All the nukes in the United States are gone now. And he's like, great, now I have achieved world peace. And everyone looks at him like, what the fuck is this guy? And he just kind of laughs and he finds it amusing. He's just really entertaining. His whole deal is just making the plot entertaining. It's kind of a genius move from a narrative standpoint to have a character who's just the equivalent of, like, that Simpsons clip where, oh, Kat's gonna kill me because I don't know the name of this character. I've never seen a full episode of The Simpsons. Who's the kid with the glasses? Fuck. I feel stupid because, fuck. Simpsons. Am I really gonna search up Simpsons glasses guy? Milhouse, that's his name. Okay, it was escaping me. All I know is it's the clip of him where he goes, when are they gonna get to the fireworks factory? That's the only clip I know of him. He's the equivalent of that. He goes, okay, let's get to the fireworks factory, guys. And he just keeps pushing it. He just keeps making things crazier and more high tension because it's entertaining. And his design's really weird. He's like a little zombie emo twink with the Valentine, like, spiked halo over his head. But his is black. And, right? He has the black one, if I'm not misremembering, right? Yeah, the black one. Okay, right. I was remembering correctly. And this weird, he's got, like, these devil horns and, like, orange X shaped sunglasses that are really cool looking. And one of the first things that he does, I keep saying one of the first things he does, a thing that he does once he gets to the White House is he basically takes out a guard and steals his jacket because he's just shirtless when he gets out. And he's basically walking around, and it's a really great visual or part. The design feels complete with the jacket because it doesn't fit him. It's obviously made for someone who has like a much bigger frame than him, because the dude who knocks out is like a big like Secret Service agent. So he steals like this jacket that's way too big for him, and then he's also like only wearing it with like one of the shoulders is just kind of hanging off. He's just kind of lazily wearing it and is flapping around. He's not wearing shoes. He has a great you look at him. Guilty Gear designs are so great because you look at him and you totally understand who he is. He just has this like, especially like once you see his animations in game, in the actual like as a playable character, and he looks cool. He looks like he has a cool style, where all of his moves, or his movements, I should say, just in general, because like the way that he kind of walks around, he has a ton of personality in that you can tell that he is super. What would I think? I saw like a comment that summed it up really well. It went something like, he's like a very lazy or carefree savant or something like that, where the way that he moves, he's just kind of lazily walking around, not really putting that much effort or movement into his attacks. Like, let me just have the trailer running in the background. And let's see. Yeah, he's just kind of like, he has no like extreme movements, which is really funny. He's just kind of hopping around, very lazily kind of throwing his arms around like, woo. He does this little hop back thing, and it's very unenergetic, which kind of actually makes him stand out compared to the rest of the cast, where everyone has very great like snappy key poses and or snappy animations and like really strong key poses, and he's just kind of just whatever. Like it exudes this kind of confidence that matches him. It fits him really well, because his whole thing in the story is he is stupidly powerful. He doesn't know, but he doesn't always choose to display his power because he doesn't want to end things quickly. You get that feeling that like if he wanted to, he could just like kill everyone, but he doesn't feel like it because it would be less interesting. Oh, he has a great. They show off when you get around. Well, if you time out, if you get a timeout, if the timer hits 0, most characters they'll just play like their loss animation. If when Happy Chaos is in the game and he gets a timeout, he shoots the timer and then like a bullet hole shows up on the screen. It's really funny. Yeah, I'm super into him. Just he has that same shot in the trailer where he shoots the timer, has some kind of neat. It shows off. It looks like he has some kind of special meter. Put a pin in that. But he's doing this move where he's walking forward and shooting, and it's the most blasé thing. He's like got kind of a slouch. He's holding the gun up just straight up with one hand. He's just so casual. The other hand's at his side. He's like, and he's just shooting like bop, bop, bop. All right. Just not a care in the world. Really fun. I love it when you can tell characters when a character has a really strong personality, pardon me, really strong personality that shows through in their animations and the way that they fight. It's a lot of the reason that I love Slayer. Slayer has kind of a similar thing going on, where, yeah, actually they do. They're actually fairly similar now that I think about it. Because Slayer's deal is that he's like a 1,000-plus-year-old vampire who is just so absurdly powerful that he could beat anyone in canon. He could beat anyone, but he doesn't really care about victory that much. So he never really goes all out, and you can tell just from his animations that he's just having fun. Like, he does all these little flourishes. His fighting is almost like dance-like, with these little like spins and twirls and all these extra movements that he really doesn't need to do, but he's just doing it because it's fun. His grab animation. So his grab is just like it's a hard knockdown. It causes a hard knockdown, and the animation is he takes his pipe out, he blows smoke in your face, and then he trips you, and then he shrugs towards the camera. And it's like, you can tell so much about him just from watching him move. I love how his blocking animation is his hand just like moving in a circle, and he's just parrying basically like every single strike. Happy Chaos has a similar thing. I really like that whole... One of my favorite archetypes in anything, and this probably just comes from watching a lot of Bleach when I was a kid, was characters who are really strong and then intentionally limit themselves because they want to enjoy the fight. I always think that's a really fun type of character. It's kind of a trope, but it's one that I enjoy a lot, personally. Obviously, like, Kenpachi from Bleach is that to a T. Kenpachi's one of my favorite Bleach characters. Conversely. So, gameplay-wise, Happy Chaos, he looks like not a ton of detail on his gameplay. Like, just watching it... He has the longest name ever. He has the longest, like, title. It's like... I think they show it at the end. If you just look at his gameplay, his full title is like Restorer of Humanity, Gunslinging Broken Messiah, which sounds like a direct translation from Japanese. So he looks like he has these moves where he has some like targeting reticle that locks on. So he has, his deal was that he, in the story mode, was that he had like these two guns. He only ever really used one, from what I remember. And he had some kind... His powers were sort of undefined. But there's a point where, like, Nago Ryuki's sword is, like, the only thing that can deal, like, a permanent injury to Soul. Because Soul has, like a healing factor because he's a gear. And so Happy Chaos, like, swipes... like runs his fingers along Nago's sword, and then he like creates a bullet that has the same property as the sword, and so he can like kill Soul with that. So he has this like two big ass guns, like handguns, very like Noel from BlazBlue, and he has this targeting reticle that looks like it just like... I'm not sure what the parameters are, because there's two. There's like a green one, or like kind of an aqua colored one that starts out wide and then it kind of like zeroes in on them. And it looks like every time he uses an attack, it like unfocuses again, almost like when you're in an FPS and you shoot and you get less accurate every time you shoot, and you can literally see like the crosshair like expand. It looks like he has a similar thing, but every time he uses any kind of attack, even like a normal, it like unfocuses, and then he can use the gunshot. So yeah, he uses the gunshot, and then after he uses it, there's an orange one, and it's like the green one has like a plus symbol in the middle for the crosshair, and the orange one is an X, so it's like rotated. And it looks like the orange one is really and then okay, that's weird. I wonder if it's like a thing he has to build up or something like that, because the orange one looks like it's way stronger, probably does a lot more damage, and causes a guard break if it's blocked. And he actually gets to use it twice in a row in this little clip, which is really interesting. And he like interrupts this Leo as he's running towards him. He looks like he has Sub-Zero's ice clones from like Mortal Kombat. I don't think, when was the last time Sub-Zero had ice clones? I don't remember, but looks like he has the same thing. This ability looks really fun. This honestly makes me look like really interested in him. So he does this move where he does this evasive hop backwards, and in his place, the spot where he hopped from, he creates a little clone. And looks like when he does, if I kind of slow it down a bit, he makes the clone. So he's fighting this Nago in this clip. He hops back. There's that targeting reticle that was in the other clip is not on Nago. So Chaos jumps back, makes the clone. Nago spins into the clone and like knocks it out. And then the reticle like starts on it like expands like from where the clone gets hit, like the original position, and then it moves, it like locks onto Nago. I wonder if like you have to get like you have to like fulfill a certain thing to get the reticle on them so that you can start like firing, because it's obviously like, it seems like it puts them in block stun for a really long time, and he can just shoot. He has this move where he just walks forward and shoots continuously, just like one shot after the other. Yeah, so he does it again in his Kai clip. That's interesting. So the next clip after that, hops back, makes the clone, and a little whoosh, a little thing, like a little circle, like zooms in on Chaos, but it's not the same targeting thing. It's like some other buff. It looks like a buff. Kai attacks. Oh, weird. So yeah, no reticle. Makes the clone, no reticle. Kai attacks the clone. Chaos goes into this like pose. And is there like a super sound? Nope, that's not like a super, because there's another super where he goes into like a pose for something. So he goes into this pose where he like aims with both hands. Like he holds it with both hands. Kai kills the clone. Immediately the orange reticle pops up. Boom. Oh, it causes a big bounce. That's sick. Reticle on him again. Kicks. Yeah, that's a cool link. Does some kind of a super. I wonder if... So there's like a bit when you see him versus this Mei. And there's two... Oh, wait. Hang on. So he has this extra UI element because every Guilty Gear character needs to have an extra bar above their... They need an extra mechanic bar above their regular tension gauge. He has two. One of them is how many bullets he has loaded. So it looks like he has 3. So it's like a 6-shooter revolver. And then he has a different gauge that's like the green color. I think the way that it works is that when that gauge is full, he can like spend it or pop it, or maybe it's automatic. I don't know. And then he starts getting the reticle, and he can start doing his like full screen. He can zone from like anywhere on the screen because he can shoot. It goes full screen, and it looks basically instant or super fast. So I think the way it works is that bar, the green bar, is his thing for the lets him do the lock on, and then he has a number of bullets that he can use. Yeah. So every shot he shoots in that clip drains one from the bullet. So that makes sense. That's it. So that's really, yeah. And then he has some really cool looking supers. I'm wondering, so if I go back to that Kai clip, it's like, yeah, I think that's sort of the way that it works, because no reticle, and then he does this little like thing where he like gets ready, or he goes into this pose, and he has this little like particle effect around him that kind of like moves. It's like this green sort of energy that absorbs into him, and then suddenly clone gets killed, reticle pops up. So I'm almost wondering if that's like a coincidence, like the clone or something, like maybe the pose that he goes into is when he like pops his bar and is able to start aiming with the reticle, and then when the clone gets hit, it causes like the lock on, like it causes auto lock on, or maybe when the clone gets hit, it just gives him like lets him use it for free. What's going on in the Leo clip? Because this is like the first. There's no clones in the Leo clip, so I'm curious. The test group. So he's already he's got the reticle aiming from the start. So it might be something like he's almost like an install character, which would actually be really sick, where he builds up this bar and then he pops it and then he gets really strong. And he's able to do this like zoning, he's able to do combos with the shots, and he gets access to this like orange shot that's really strong. And then once it's spent, or once his bullets are spent, maybe that's why he has like 2 different limiting factors on it. He might have other moves that use the bullets. Maybe, but just for now, just assume that it's just this like reticle attack. He's got the maybe it's just like really strong, and that's why it has like 2 limiting mechanics on it. That he has to have the bar, he has to have like the extra bar to like take aim, and then he needs to have a limited number of bullets to use. Obviously they're being intentionally vague about it, but he also doesn't necessarily look like a zoner, because he's doing like a ton of stuff from mid-range. Because like if the clones are actually integral to his gameplay, like hitting the clone seems to give you some kind of a big advantage in terms of like letting you do this lock-on thing. It might just like fill up the bar instantly or something like that, or give you like a free shot, something like that. Then he actually doesn't want to be full screen. He actually wants to be mid-screen, baiting you into hitting the clone, jump hop, doing this little hop back. Uh-oh, dingus, you hit the clone. And then he gets to start laying on his pressure with the shots. Because there's like, pardon. I ate like 4 hours ago, what the hell? Why am I still burping? I don't know if it's random what pose the clones are in, or if they actually have like different effects. That might be interesting, because there's a few where they're in like different. There's one where he's doing like a arms up, like flexing pose. Yeah, so he does reload. Yeah, I just noticed this clip, this bit where he's against the Eno. He does the clone, he hops back. He reloads the gun, which might be a move in and of itself. It might be after like a period of time. And then he has a little energy circle in on him. Like energy absorb into him. And then immediately the reticle starts forming on Eno. So that seems like he does go into some kind of a mode for it. And also looks like they might be able to miss. Yeah, so in this May clip, he's like walking forward doing this attack. And every time the reticle isn't like super focused in, like it's not focused all the way in on her, and she backdashes out of the way as he does it, and the shots actually whiff. So it's not just guaranteed, you can actually avoid it and back out of it. This character looks really interesting. They've been intentionally vague with only showing like his UI in one shot of the trailer. Everything else is like there's no UI. But I'm really curious. He has this one super where he's just leaning back, shooting both guns rapid fire. That looks really cool. I'm really curious about this character. Restorer of Humanity, Gunslinging Broken Messiah. Jesus. What an anime-ass name. Happy Chaos. That was actually super dope. I was not expecting Happy Chaos to be the third character. Most people were speculating that he would be the last one, just because it feels like it makes more sense to end the season with your like big villain. So I have no idea who could be 4 and 5 at this point. Maybe he was supposed to be in the launch game. Who knows? But yeah, the DLC was a little so far it's been a little hit or miss for me specifically, because Gold Lewis I really liked. I think he's really cool, especially to watch, but his actual gameplay it's just too much of a burden. It's just too difficult to like do his inputs and stuff. I just don't feel like putting up with it, even though he is cool and I like him and I think the game is better with him in it. Jacko is another good inclusion. I just felt like she wasn't really my type of character, like a kind of like coordination heavy setup character who was very like fragile, just not really my thing. But she's cool. Like watching Jacko combos are really cool, where she's like kicking the minions around and everything's like hitting in like one after the other. Cool character. I'm really excited for her. Happy Chaos might be the character. We didn't see too many of his normals, but I'm genuinely really curious to get in the game with him. He's on, let's see, Season Pass, which I have, is going to be November 30th, and then individual DLC sales are going to be on the December 3rd. So in about 15 days from when this goes up. So I'm pretty jazzed about him, honestly. It was a really hype announcement. Unfortunately, because of social distancing, the crowd at the actual tournament was pretty small, and it kind of put a bit of a damper on things, because you could tell, even though they looked genuinely like into it, there just wasn't enough people, which sucks. It's like going to, like, in high school, you'd go to you go to like a game, like a sports game that, like, you know, like the tennis team, and it's just like the participants' parents, and it's like, I'm glad you're supporting your kid. Damn. I feel for you. It's fine. I was in jazz. I did music. Nobody showed up to that except for parents and, you know, family. That's kind of what it felt like. It felt like Red Bull Kumite felt like a jazz concert that we did. No matter how good we played, no matter how fun it was, it's just going to be family and yeah, family basically in the crowd. Yeah, his theme is really cool. It's like, it took me 10 years to something, something, something. I want to hear the whole thing. I'm very excited for Happy Chaos Valentine. What a name. Maybe if he's fun enough, it might be the character that really gets me into Strive. My struggle with Strive has been that I haven't had a character that I really love. The problem is that, like, if I can jump into another game like Street Fighter V, I have no prior... I've played other Street Fighter games, but I haven't ever really gotten into them. I've never found a character that was like, this is my guy. So I could jump into 5 with no biases, no inclinations about what I was looking for, and just kind of naturally find a character that I liked. With Guilty Gear, it's difficult because Slayer is literally my favorite fighting game character of all time. Maybe my favorite playable character in anything ever. He is literally the most fun character I have ever played. Specifically his version in Plus R, which is why I play a lot more Plus R than I do Strive. So not having him in Strive in any form, even in like Exerd where he's like got some stuff removed, which was, you know, kind of a bummer, but he's still the same character basically. He has this. He's the same idea. You can go from one to the other, and it's not a totally different character in terms of what you want to do and all that. And you know, the idea. They preserved his identity is the thing. In Strive, I haven't really had a character who was super my thing. Like, no one I jumped into, and I could only really try out characters and be like, yeah, but they're not really Slayer. And I always had this like thing hanging over. Like, but they're not Slayer. It's like an X that you can't get over. And I tried to play Nago. I really did. I had some fun, but ultimately, I don't know, his stuff just wasn't fun to do. And it's hard to describe, but I didn't like doing a million motion inputs to do a combo, even if it did a bunch of damage. I tried picking up Ramlethal, and she was pretty fun. She was way easier. Jesus Christ, that character is way easier to just pick up, but still, like, like I could play her if I wanted to jump in, but it's been a struggle. Maybe Happy Chaos is going to be the character who brings me back in. Anyway, I've literally spent like an hour just talking about Red Bull Kumite and Happy Chaos and all that. I hope you are okay with listening to me just talk about whatever stuff that only I care about. At the end of the month, sort of next thing, I think Tom Cannon said in like a tweet at the end of the month that there's going to be a development update on the Riot Fighter on Project L. That's really cool. Now this podcast has a tendency for manifesting things into existence. If you remember, literally the week after I covered the like NVIDIA leak, like 4 or 5 of those games got confirmed in the Nintendo Direct. Specifically like ActRaiser and stuff like that. And I didn't mention the Square Enix card game, but it's just really specific stuff like that got confirmed. And I feel like there was another thing that just like happened like right after I talked about it. I'm forgetting. I'm pretty sure it's happened. Anyway, I wanted to take some bets on... Because if it's a developer update, I feel like they're going to at least show off some screenshots, and we'll get an idea of the way that they're approaching the game. So I wanted to lay out some bets. The over-unders. I wanted to make some predictions as to what approach they're going to use. So my first prediction is that it's going to use, I don't know what you'd call it, one-button specials? Hotkey specials? And the reason for that, pardon. The reason for that, if you don't know, is that Tom and Tony Cannon of Valiant Entertainment, or Radiant Entertainment, sorry, they made this game called Rising Thunder, and Rising Thunder was intended to be easily playable on PCs. And part of that was it did not use motion inputs for special moves. It had, I believe, like light, medium, heavy, and then 3 special buttons. 3 buttons for specials. And so when they got bought out by Riot, the obvious assumption was, oh, well, League is a very, hotkey combat. It's a very easy, logical transition to turn that into that same kind of system, right? This character has 3 abilities and an ultimate. So, in a fighting game, they're going to have, ABC attacks and then 3 specials, and their ultimate will be their super button, right? They'll have a super button. I personally am not a huge fan of the idea of 1-button specials. I never really played Rising Thunder. I've never played it, period. Not really played. I've never played it, period. But, personally, that might just be because I've never had a problem with motion inputs. Immediately when I picked up, my first fighting game that I, Guilty Gear XX and Skullgirls, I was pretty quickly quarter circle, down, forward. Okay, easy. And it was never a struggle mentally for me to be able to do it, or physically, So I've never had a problem. I've never seen it as a problem, and I honestly, special moves are not really that. I'm sorry, I'm gonna throw the cold water onto some people, but special moves are not that hard to do. They're not that hard to do. And they're not hard to remember either. There's 4 special moves, 4 special inputs, motion inputs, that basically every game uses. Quarter circle, DP, which is just forward, just a quarter circle where you hit forward at the beginning, and then charge, back, forward, and charge, down, up. And then there's the reverse, quarter circle back and all that, but that's just the same thing. And then sometimes half circles. That's it. That's all you have to know to play fighting games. To literally, I can jump into any fighting game and pick a random character and do those 5 things and figure out over half of the character's move list without even checking it. Maybe not entirely, there's some extra details of doing follow-up attacks and all that, but the basic motions, yeah. Sometimes you'll see a down-down input. I hate down-down inputs. But super simple. Honestly. Not hard to grasp, I don't think. And I like doing motion inputs. I actually find them very satisfying to do. It feels good in some, just having the tactile feeling of doing an attack, doing the motion. It's nice. It's almost like a physical feedback. But I'm predicting that it's going to use specials or 1-button specials, which is fine. It can still be okay. The thing about 1-button specials is that the game as a whole has to be designed around them, right? So, for instance, in Street Fighter, let's take a classic example. The Shoryuken, right? The Dragon Punch. It's done by hitting forward, down, down, forward. And it's a rising uppercut that, at least, in most versions, they removed this in Street Fighter V, which was a shame, but in basically the classic Shoryuken it's a big uppercut, rising uppercut move. Ryu jumps into the air and does this uppercut, and it's invincible. It's a very strong move. It's considered a reversal, which is just a move that you can do while you're on the defensive, and if it lands, it will put you in an advantageous situation. So a reversal uppercut, right? You cannot put an equivalent move on a character and just have it be a single button. It would be insane. It would be ridiculous, because part of the inherent risk of doing the Dragon Punch is that you have to hit forward at the beginning. And if you're hitting forward, you're not blocking. So you actually, the risk is that, yes, it can be used defensively and as sort of like a transition to move you from defense to offense. Maybe you can think of it better that way. It can be used for that purpose, but in order to do it in the first place, at no point during the motion can you actually block. You can't do a thing where you like buffer in the motion and stay blocking and then just hit the button if it to like do the special while you're blocking the whole time. You can't do that unless you could with like a quarter circle back or a reversal DP, or sorry, just a backwards DP. If it's like back, down, down, back, right? Two of those positions you're blocking in. So there's an inherent risk to doing the attack, which means that, what am I trying to say? For one, you can do it while moving forward, right? So you can use it aggressively. But the aggression comes with a risk. If you put that on a character with one button, then they can be blocking and then just hit the Shoryuken button, and then they just get a free reversal, which is stupid. It's ridiculous. And is dumb. That's what I'm trying to say. All you're going to be doing is just hitting that button over and over again, unless maybe there was some kind of resource, which honestly they might do because it's League, and you have stuff like mana costs and all that. So there's just like a general level of power that you can have with motion inputs that you can't do with one button specials, because you can't do them instantly. It does take a second to do the motion, even if you can do it really fast, like just on command, on reaction. It does take a second, and depending on the motion, makes you. It can change the dynamics, because like holding back makes you block. So there's a great video on this by Kore Gaming. It's called The Case for Motion Inputs. So one of the things he mentions there is that Guile, right? Guile is a charge character. So he has to hold. He has two moves. He has the Sonic Boom, and then he has the Flash Kick. Flash Kick is a big upwards striking kick move, really good reversal, but it's a down-up charge motion. Sonic Boom is a back-forward charge motion. So he has to hold one direction for a few frames. It's like a second and a half, I think, maybe a little less. And then basically tap the opposite direction and then hit a button at the same time. And that's the motion for the move. So Sonic Boom is back, hold back, and then tap forward plus punch, right? So if he's holding down back and he's just crouch blocking, he is charging both moves. He's able to charge both the Sonic Boom and the Flash Kick at the same time, and he can unleash either one at a second's notice. But he is inherently locking down his position by doing it, because he has to be crouching. He cannot move forward. So compare that to Ryu, who has two kind of equivalent moves. He has the Fireball, and he has his own like Dragon Punch reversal. But Ryu does those with motions. So Ryu can inherently play more aggressively than Guile, and but Guile is able to respond defensively much faster. Also, traditionally, Guile's his projectile recovers a lot faster than Ryu's, which means that he can play the defensive game. He can basically become like a fortress, and Ryu has to get in. There's this whole really interesting game to Ryu versus Guile. And you kind of lose that when you take out motion inputs. You also have the added thing of when you have motion inputs and not just mapping them to buttons, that you can make larger movesets for characters. Like, you can have a character with like 8, 9, 10 special moves because they're all done with like either different motions or a motion with a different button. Lots of games, do something like that. Guilty Gear does that a lot. That's actually a great example, because you have a lot of like, there's a huge amount of variety in like how the characters perform their specials, or the motions. Fuck, what am I trying to say? My brain's slowing down. There's a huge variety of like motions for the characters to do specials. Wow, my brain's really slowing down. I just like hit a wall. I've been talking about fighting games for like 2 hours. An hour and 3/4, I should say. That's just all I'm trying to say. What else? I think it's going to have, I want to say like 8 or 10 characters on launch. I just have that feeling, because the way that most Riot games tend to work is that they've launched a little bit small, and then they get kind of regular updates. What else do I think? I think it's going to be, it's obviously still going to be like a traditional 2D fighter, because that's what Radiant is good at, and that's what they know, that's what they understand. It's not going to suddenly become a platform fighter. I think they're going to try to have representation from all the major regions of the game, which I remember, like, characters, they had like Jinx, Darius, Katarina, I forget who else they showed off. Oh, Ari, yeah. So that's like 2 Noxus, 1 Zon, 1 Ionia. They can add a bunch more. What else do I think they're going to have? I don't know. Honestly, there just wasn't a ton of information. Oh, I think, let's see, they might not talk about this in the dev update. I'm assuming it's going to be free to play. I'm assuming it's going to have rollback. I am assuming, what else? Probably not going to have very much single player content. It's probably going to have some progression system where you can unlock like skins and stuff. It's going to be 3D, so you're going to unlock skins and all that. I'm assuming they're going to have like season pass bullshit that Riot's going to make them put in there for a battle pass system. Because League already does that, right? They do something like that. I'm confusing them with Smite. Right, Smite did that. They're going to have something like that. Yeah, there's probably going to be cosmetics. I don't know if it's going to be like individual little parts like you can do in Tekken, but definitely like full costumes, I'm assuming. And what else? Maybe like unlockable music, unlockable stages. I don't know. That's all my predictions. I want to say it's going to take the Rising Thunder model and be like with this one button specials and all that. Anything else I wanted to talk about? Not really. Did I really just talk about like 2 things this entire podcast? I don't know. Again, it was a slow news week. Again, this is a Cellar podcast, not a gaming podcast. I just talk about what I want to. I know there's news with like the GTA remaster or whatever. Honestly, I've never really cared that much about GTA. I think it was like something the graphics were bad. That sucks. I'm sorry, guys. That's gotta hurt. Especially because those games are the ones that were in the collection were pretty beloved. And yeah, I don't know. It's just a shame to see what could have been a great love letter to some really important games get really bungled like that. Apparently, the hot coffee scenes were still in the game. We're in, was it San Andreas that those were in? I think so. And apparently they literally, it was such a shoddy, like, thrown together port remaster project. They literally just left the sex scene that got censored out in the game, in the files, like the original, like first edition. I don't know how they did that. Maybe they were, because the hot coffee was, it was in the game files in the first edition, like the first print of the game. Modders found it, and they had to reissue, they had to make like a second version update where they took those out. Where they took it out. Because usually what happens in game dev is if they don't use something, it tends to be a lot easier to just hide it and make it inaccessible. Like, there's tons of games that just have rooms that you can't get to because they were planned to be something, and then they were like, and then it just fell to the wayside during development, or they ended up cutting it, and it's just lost. It just sealed away. Not lost, but, sealed away. They just throw up a wall. They make it inaccessible, and you can only get there with, like, hacking or glitching or modding or something like that. So I guess they were using, like, the original version? Like, the first retail build of the game? Which is really funny that they didn't even bother to, like, check. The whole thing reeks to me of being very, what would you say? Yeah, I don't know, just kind of slapdash. I hope against hope that this does not become the beginning of, this is not the point that people look back on in the future and say, that's where Rockstar started to go downhill. I hope that this is not that. I hope this is just a bump in the road and they continue to put out good games. But it's looking pretty ugly. I think it has like I think it has like the lowest Metacritic score of all time. Like, it's got like a 0.5. Pardon me, right now. Which is really crazy. Let's check it out. Let's do a live update. GTA Definitive Edition. Metacritic? Whoa. Article from Forbes. GTA Trilogy isn't the new Cyberpunk 2077. The Definitive Edition is worse. Yikes. That's... Ooh. It's at a 0.9 right now. So what was the problem? Was the graphics bad or what? Oh, there's a bunch of bugs? What? So, I'll just skim over this for fun. So this first part's just talking about Cyberpunk. Huh? What? Where's... Okay. Huh? Wait, what? Oh, it's like every paragraph is a comparison. Okay, because it starts with Cyberpunk in every paragraph. I'm like, where does he talk about GTA in this? Okay. Rock... One quote I read yesterday was that CDPR shot for the moon with Cyberpunk 2077 and missed, while Rockstar shot for the ground and somehow still missed. That's brutal. GTA was simply a remastering of a bunch of old games, a seemingly far easier task, and still went so terribly wrong. This one comes from Paul Tassi from Forbes, by the way. Rockstar has taken down the PC version of GTA in order to remove files left inside it, ranging from everything from unlicensed songs to proprietary company tools to the San Andreas hot coffee sex mod. So even if you bought the PC version, Rockstar is literally preventing you from playing it indefinitely. Holy cannoli. Every version is performing badly? Really? Really? Rockstar tasked a mobile-based studio with remastering these 3 games mostly based on a mobile port. Oh, right, because all these games had mobile versions. And they were like, yeah, you were the last people to touch that, so why don't you do it? Perhaps the worst aspect of all of this is the fact that Rockstar spent time hunting down player-made remaster mods and taking those down, then stopped selling the original versions of the game altogether, clearing the way for this remaster, which is worse than any of them. Wow. I feel dumb because a few episodes ago I talked about, like, oh yeah, I think it was in that same GeForce leak, and I was like, yeah, you know, I'm glad that they're paying tribute, they're paying homage, or not homage, they're giving some love to their older classic titles. That's really good. It's Rockstar. I'm sure there's no way they're gonna mess this up. And they messed it up. They messed it up. Oh, what a whack situation. I don't even really care that much about GTA. I don't have any investment in it, but I'm really sorry if anyone listening has had any bad experiences with the game. Feel free to vent in the comments. This is a GTA safe. This is a vent safe zone. It's a safe space for complaining. I'm probably gonna call it a day because the next stage of the last day of Kumite starts. I didn't watch the Tekken tournament yesterday just because I fell asleep, but the Street Fighter block is today, and it starts in a few minutes. So I'm probably gonna call it a day. If you've enjoyed me listening to talk about a game that you've probably never played for like an hour, then thank you. Thank you for listening if you've made it this far. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below and I will definitely get to them next time. It has to be phrased in the form of a question, like we're playing Jeopardy. That's how Jeopardy works, right? Yeah, it is. I'm not just going to read your thoughts out loud. So, thank you so much for watching. The channel is getting really close to 1,000. I have to start like figuring out how I'm going to do that goddamn tournament. And yeah, as I check, we're at 937, which is great. Thank you everyone who has subscribed and decided after you subscribed to tune into this horrible podcast. Or I just talk about stuff that I only care about. Thanks everyone who has been enjoying the Narc video. I got a lot of comments actually from new people, which was nice. That was a really fun video to make. Before I get it, I'm rambling. I've been rambling this whole time. What am I talking about? Yeah, have a good one. I'm gonna go watch Kumite. Bye.